Welcome to Inspiring Tales. Today, we have a story about how discovering your own strengths and practicing with dedication can lead to success. It's a tale that reminds us that we all have unique talents, and with the right mindset, we can excel in anything we set our minds to. Along the way, we'll also learn new words and how to use them in sentences to improve our English in a fun and simple way. So, stay with us until the end. Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful town, there lived a family in a quiet corner of the city. Among them was a 12-year-old boy named David, who was in the 6th grade. David was full of energy and loved playing outdoors, especially soccer. Almost every day, he would head to the nearby public field to practice his skills. One afternoon, after coming home from school, David slumped onto the couch, deep in thought. He opened a school book and stared at it, but quickly leaned back into the cushions with a dissatisfied expression. His father, who had just come in from the backyard, noticed David's unusual mood and walked over to him. Sitting beside his son, he asked what was bothering him. David explained that he had received a poor grade in math. But it wasn't just the grade that upset him, it was that his close friend and neighbor, Matt, always seemed to score high in math. No matter how hard David tried, David just couldn't seem to do as well. After hearing this, David's father went to get a glass of water to help calm him. Once David had relaxed a bit, his father took him outside to their small backyard garden, which was surrounded by shady trees and had a peaceful atmosphere. I want you to understand 3 important lessons from what happened today, his father began. These are lessons that will guide you as you grow older. David, who deeply respected his father, was curious and a bit confused. "Can you explain those lessons, Dad?" he asked. "You'll learn each lesson through a challenge I'll give you," his father replied, with a gentle smile. After a brief pause, his father continued, "For the first lesson, I want you to invite Matt to play soccer with you tomorrow." David nodded, eager to find out what lesson his father had in mind. The next day, the weather was bright and welcoming, and David went to school with his usual excitement. That afternoon, he invited Matt to join him for a soccer game at the nearby field. As usual, David, who played soccer almost every day, dominated the match. He scored 3 goals, leading his team to victory. Matt, however, wasn't very familiar with soccer and struggled. He lost the ball a few times and made several mistakes. Despite this, everyone had a great time. Afterward, David cleaned up and hurried to meet his father in the backyard. "Dad, I played soccer with Matt today. What's the first lesson you want to teach me?" he asked. His father smiled knowingly and said, "Tell me how the game went." David explained how he scored 3 goals and how Matt wasn't very good at soccer. His father nodded and said, "Look at this, David. Matt may not be good at soccer, but he's great at math, just like how you might struggle with math but excel at soccer. We're all different, and that's okay. We each have our own strengths and passions." David felt a wave of understanding. He realized that people don't have to be the same, and that's perfectly fine. Curious, David immediately asked about the second lesson. For the second lesson, his father said, "I want you to pay close attention to Matt tomorrow at school. Keep track of how often you see him counting or working with numbers." The next day, David eagerly observed Matt at school. Throughout the day, he noticed how often Matt was engaged in math-related tasks. After school, David spent some time playing soccer again until his father returned home. That evening, David reported his findings to his father. "Dad, Matt was counting a lot today. He worked on math problems, solved puzzles, even calculated things like change during recess. He even counted the petals on a flower. His father smiled warmly and said, "That's the second lesson. Matt is good at math because he enjoys it and practices it often. If you want to get better at something, you need to practice, just like you do with soccer. It doesn't always have to be difficult. You can start with simple things, like counting the petals on a flower." David smiled, realizing that he could improve at anything as long as he practiced consistently, just like he did with soccer. Without waiting, he eagerly asked about the third and final lesson. His father thought for a moment and said, "For the last lesson, I want you to think about how much better Matt is at math compared to you." David paused for a second and then hesitantly replied, "I think Matt is about 3 times better at math than I am." "All right," his father said. "For the last challenge, I want you to study math 3 times harder tomorrow." David swallowed nervously but nodded, determined to take on the final challenge. The next day after school, David sat down to study math. After an hour of intense focus, he decided to push himself further and studied for 2 more hours, tripling his usual effort. But before he could finish, his head began to hurt, and before he realized it, he fell asleep. Later, his father gently woke him up. "Wake up for dinner and meet me in the garden afterward." David, feeling disappointed in himself, met his father with his head hung low. "I'm sorry, Dad, I couldn't complete the challenge. I studied so much that my head hurt, and I ended up falling asleep." His father gently patted David's head and said, "David, this is what happens when you try to master something you don't enjoy. It's hard to stay disciplined and consistent. But when you study something you love, discipline and consistency feel much lighter, just like how you stay dedicated to playing soccer." After a brief silence, his father gave him the final piece of advice. "So, if you want to be smart and become an expert at something, either study what you love or learn to love what you're studying." David, filled with admiration for his father's wisdom, promised to carry these 3 important lessons with him for the rest of his life. Today, we learned new words and sentences through this story. Remember, learning English can be fun when you practice regularly, so keep listening, learning, and growing. Make sure to like, comment, and share how this story helped you improve your English. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story, where we'll continue learning together.